On a quiet Thursday afternoon, the serene atmosphere in a local police dispatch center in one of Alabama's smallest towns was abruptly interrupted by an unexpected voice on 911, a brief, innocent call that resonated with everyone present and altered the course of many lives. The office was tranquil, as it had been in recent months, especially during the last 2 weeks of an unusually hot summer. It was believed that no one dared to commit crimes or engage in any wrongdoing since the streets were nearly empty with people fearing heat stroke. Those who could stay indoors had barricaded themselves in their homes, surrounded by a fortress of fans. Yet even the sweltering temperatures couldn't deter the officers from performing their duties. Officers Carter and Alice were on duty that late August night, prepared to respond to any emergencies. It appeared that this night would be as uneventful as all the others, until the sound of an incoming call shattered the silence and brought them to attention. "Hello, good evening. Could you please bring me a Happy Meal?" A young, innocent voice came from the other end of the line, seemingly oblivious to the gravity of an emergency call in the middle of the night. Alice, a seasoned professional known for her compassionate nature, paused for a moment, touched by the child's innocent request. Initially, she thought the child must have dialed the wrong number or was simply playing a prank on her. In any case, she decided not to hang up and struck up a conversation with the child to find out a little more. She took a deep breath and answered him warmly. "Hi, darling. I think you have the wrong number. Is your mom or dad at home? If you let me talk to them, we can clear things up." But the boy seemed determined to get his way and insisted on his original demand. "They can't answer the phone. No, they're sleeping now. I just want a Happy Meal. I'm so hungry, please. Can you ask them to bring it to my house?" As he said this, the boy's voice seemed to fade into a quiet whimper, which touched Alice to the core and made her begin to become nervous, fearing that something much more serious was hidden behind this innocent call. Feeling that this might be more than just a childish whim, Alice considered the possibility that there was some underlying problem that required her immediate attention. After all, children often innocently ask for help in situations they cannot fully articulate because they are not old enough to understand them or express their feelings. "Okay, honey. Don't worry, I'll help you. Please don't hang up," Alice told him, trying to keep the boy on the phone so she could trace the call and make sure he was okay. Feeling anxious and urgent, Alice was able to quickly find the source of the call. He came from an area on the outskirts of the city. It was one of the poorest areas in the entire city, which only increased the woman's anxiety. It was then that she decided to send 2 operatives to the scene to make sure that everything was okay with the boy and to find out the true reasons that prompted him to make that mysterious call in the middle of the night. "Grace Benedict, please, you need to go to this address. I'm afraid the boy who lives in this house is in trouble. Could you go and see what's going on? Thank you." She addressed the 2 agents in a low voice that indicated her concern for the boy. Wasting no time, the 2 agents headed to the indicated address, preparing for the possible situation of confronting the sad reality of an abandoned child. "Do you think Alice overreacted by sending us here? You know, children like to play pranks," Benedict asked his partner when they were only 5 minutes away from arriving at the house from which the call came. "If she thinks the baby might be in danger, we need to find out and make sure everything is okay. And if it's not, you know what we'll have to do. We are police officers, and our job is to take care of others, no matter if they are children or adults," Officer Grace replied with a serious expression on her face. But they didn't have to wait long to realize that Alice's suspicions were more than justified. When they arrived at indicated address, the picture that greeted them did not in the least assuage their fears. On the contrary, it was a modest, abandoned-looking house. The front door was ajar, and toys scattered across the neglected lawn spoke of neglect, perhaps even distress. And it was the toys, usually bright signs of childhood and the joy of a family with children, that now seemed like abandoned relics on the deserted grass near this house, which seemed about to collapse. As Officers Grace and Benedict stepped out of their patrol car, they felt a chill run down their spines, and the weight of possible exposure weighed on their chests. They carefully crossed the threshold and announced their presence in a clear, commanding tone that masked the apprehension they felt as they entered this inhospitable place. "Alabama Police! Is anyone here? Identify yourself!" one of the policemen shouted. The agent's voice echoed through the dimly lit hallways of the small house, and her call was met with an uneasy silence that only heightened the tension. The air inside was stale, filled with a palpable feeling of abandonment and dirt that made it difficult to breathe. It was clear that this was not the home of a happy family, or even a family at all. And there's a child living here? How is this possible? Even I couldn't stay here for more than an hour without feeling short of breath, Agent Benedict commented as they entered the house in complete darkness. Both agents waited until their eyes adjusted to the dimness and carefully entered the living room in the center of the house. What they found there froze their blood. The scene that unfolded before them made them flinch involuntarily, and they were momentarily speechless, staring motionless at what appeared before their eyes, not quite believing their eyes. On a shabby old sofa lay two figures, eerily motionless in the dim light of the switched-on TV. The room was in chaos, with bottles of medicine scattered on the coffee table and floor, and other bottles of dubious origin piled in one corner, creating a depressing picture of interrupted and unhappy lives. Agent Benedict's throat tightened as he took in the scene. Each empty can was a silent testament to the deep despair that might have engulfed the adults who now lay unconscious before them, and the tragedy they must have been experiencing. As Agent Grace went to check the back rooms for other people and the boy who had called, Benedict cautiously approached the figures lying on the sofa to see if they were still alive. Fortunately, they were alive. The pulse was there, weak as a thread under his fingers, a small relief in the midst of the all-consuming tension. Meanwhile, a few meters from the living room, Grace came across a cluttered bedroom, among scattered clothes and old toys. The agent immediately realized that she was not alone and directed the flashlight beam to the corner of the room. The beam of light from Grace's flashlight fell on a small makeshift tent made of blankets in which only a child could hide. And indeed, it was so. Hidden under the blankets lay a small boy clutching a cordless phone, and his large bluish eyes were full of fear and confusion. Grace was very sad to see the boy in such a state and felt sorry for him. Then she knelt carefully next to him, her heart clenching at the sight of his vulnerability. "Hello, champion. My name is Grace, and my partner and I are here to help you," she said softly, extending her hand to pick him up. He flinched at her touch, a reflex born of the fear he felt. But recognizing his savior, he clung to her and wrapped his small arms around her neck. "Are you the woman I talked to on the phone? Will you bring me a happy meal?" asked the excited little boy. Grace was very excited to hear him say this and couldn't refuse. "You'll get your happy meal, I promise. But now we have to go. Everything will be fine. Baby, what's your name?" she said, smiling and leading him away from this painful place. "Jack, miss. My name is Jack, and I'm very glad to see you," the boy replied, smiling for the first time. Outside, the flashing lights of the reinforcement vehicles that Agent Benedict had called a few minutes earlier gave some light and color to the night. While juvenile services, a couple of ambulances, and other agents arrived to thoroughly search the house and analyze everything that was there. Two adults found unconscious in the living room received emergency medical treatment and were taken to hospital at the same time as the baby. The once quiet area now buzzed with activity from medical facilities and law enforcement, a stark reminder of the fragile lives that live here. When the public learned of Jack's plight, a wave of solidarity and support swept through the streets of the small town. Neighbors, local businesses, and even strangers from nearby neighborhoods came together to weave a tight tapestry of concern and concern around a little boy whose life was suddenly thrust into the public spotlight. Jack, with his innocence and unwavering spirit, quickly and completely unintentionally became a beacon of resilience that encouraged the entire community to become more aware of and involved in the city's child welfare issues. After spending a couple of days in hospital and a week in a social care center, Jack was placed in a foster home that radiated warmth and safety, where his life began to improve. For her part, Agent Grace, who was instrumental in his rescue, visited him regularly. Every time she visited, she brought him a happy meal, a simple and fun reminder of how they met and formed a strong friendship in such unusual and dramatic circumstances. Jack's face always lit up at the sight of the familiar red box filled with French fries and delicious, freshly prepared hamburgers, symbolizing the fulfillment of wishes. Jack's story and rescue caused such a stir in the community that within months a local initiative was launched to educate parents and children about the importance of emergency services and their role in keeping families safe at all levels. Workshops were organized, brochures were distributed, and school programs were introduced to ensure that all children knew how and when to ask for help, changing their perceptions of safety. Following the sad and inspiring story of Jack and his parents, a new culture of vigilance began to emerge in the city, changing the way neighbors treated each other. Ultimately, an innocent 911 call from a starving child not only saved his own life, but sparked a widespread movement. It was a poignant reminder that the smallest voices can often make a difference. Dear viewers, subscribe to the channel, like, write comments. See you again.